Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment. We begin this morning with the clock ticking toward a critical deadline. Earlier this week, President Trump paused those 50% tariffs targeting Canadian goods. Well, that 3-day pause runs out at the end of the day. That means those new steep tariffs could kick in unless the Trump administration extends the pause or makes a trade deal official. NBC News political reporter Megan Brand joins us now from Washington, D.C. with that and more. Megan, good morning. So where do things stand as this tariff deadline nears?
Good morning, Joe. So as of right now, there is still no deal that has been announced, no details of the deal. Now, trade representatives from the U.S. and Canada have met to try to come to some kind of finalized agreement. And it comes after President Trump had said that this was going to be delayed until today, and when we could potentially see these tariffs coming back into place, 50% tariffs on Canadian goods that could ultimately impact $20 billion worth of Canadian goods. But President Trump in that post had also referenced potentially reviving the Keystone XL pipeline. And actually in an overnight Truth Social post, he had posted an AI image of him lifting the Keystone pipeline out of the ground that had been buried next to a tombstone reading buried by Biden. So we can certainly see where his mind is at right now, but it remains to be seen what details in this final agreement could there be if a final agreement does in fact take place before this deadline runs out, Joe.
Megan, while we're talking about money, we want to talk about the bond market because there are some troubling signals here as investors worry about how much debt the U.S. government's racking up. So yields or interest rates had declined after the Treasury Department made this unusual intervention saying it would buy back at least $4 billion in long-term debt. But yesterday, those yields jumped, basically wiping out the decline. Walk us through what that could mean for both borrowing costs, but also just the Treasury's intervention here.
Yeah, Joe, so this can all sound very complicated and lofty, but it has really real impacts on people's wallets. So it impacts the cost of borrowing for consumers as well. So that can impact things like mortgage rates. So it can make it ultimately, it can raise mortgage rates. It can have that ripple effect, which could potentially make it harder for some people to make that jump to home ownership. It can impact things like car loans and student loans, potentially making them more expensive in the future. So it has this ripple effect through the economy when there are concerns about the way that the bond market is acting right now. And bond yields had increased again yesterday after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent had said in a CNBC interview, he had indicated that the U.S. might potentially make some more bond repurchases. But this all, Joe, looking forward, could potentially impact people's thoughts on the economy, which is always a major issue for midterm elections. And so now it remains to be seen how this could potentially ripple out through consumers and how people will ultimately feel about the economy when they're heading to the polls this November, Joe.
Megan, I also have to ask you about that unlikely reunion. President Trump joined his former fixer, Michael Cohen, for an interview. It was on Cohen's radio show. What is it these once bitter enemies are saying now?
Yeah, so this was a very public reconciliation after this years-long, very public falling out. And so during that conversation, it took on a friendly tone with Michael Cohen one time referring to Trump as boss, also floating the idea of holding a press conference to lay out the president's accomplishments. And then meanwhile, President Trump telling Michael Cohen that he thought that he believed that they had weaponized him. Take a listen to what else he said about that.
And then they weaponized you like nobody's ever been weaponized, like few have been.
Well, maybe just you and I, sir.
And you, yeah, me too. But I don't consider mine. Mine was at a level that nobody's ever seen before. But they weaponized you. They weaponized a lot of people, and I respect the fact that you recanted everything you said, and that's a big thing that you did. That's a very big thing.
So before that conversation began, Cohen had said in his introduction, basically said that they had forgiven each other after this very, very public, years-long feud. And he had said that that conversation would address an underlying question of whether friendship could exist after deep betrayal, Joe.
Wow, maybe pigs can fly. Did not see that one coming. Megan Brand, thank you so much. Appreciate it. NBC News has learned the FBI searched former Congressman Eric Swalwell's home in Washington. A source familiar with the matter also tells us federal agents actually stopped Swalwell at an airport over the weekend, seizing his electronic devices. He's facing criminal investigations in Manhattan and Los Angeles for accusations of sexual misconduct by multiple women, allegations he denies. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles has the latest.
More trouble for embattled former Congressman Eric Swalwell. The FBI executing a search warrant as he arrived at a San Francisco airport on Saturday, seizing electronic devices, including his cell phone. His home in Washington, D.C. also searched the following day as part of the ongoing investigation into sexual misconduct allegations. That, according to a person familiar with the matter. The FBI and Attorney General Todd Blanche declining to comment.
I'm not allowed to talk about any sort of ongoing investigation. It's certainly not what role I played in it. So, yeah, I can't comment on that.
Swalwell was a leading candidate for governor of California until multiple women accused him of sexual assault or misconduct.
These allegations of sexual assault are flat false. They're absolutely false.
One of the women included Lana Drews, who said he drug, raped, and choked her in 2018.
I believe he drugged my drink. I only had one glass of wine. He raped me. And he choked me.
In a statement, Drews' attorney says that she's not spoken to the FBI, but is encouraged to learn about the escalation in their apparent investigation. NBC News has reached out to Swalwell's legal team, but have not heard back yet. But earlier this year, Swalwell's attorney categorically denied every allegation, calling them, quote, false, fabricated, and deeply offensive. Swalwell abandoned his race for governor and eventually resigned his seat in Congress. NBC News has confirmed Democrat State Senator Aisha Wahab will fill his seat until January.
The White House released previously classified documents that show that Swalwell admitted to having an intimate relationship with a woman who was deported after being accused of being a spy for China. However, Swalwell was investigated by both the House Ethics Committee and the Department of Justice, and they found no wrongdoing.
All right, Ryan, thank you. A woman is now in custody accused of plotting an ISIS-inspired attack on the New York State Capitol in Albany. The Justice Department said yesterday that the FBI foiled 35-year-old Jessie Bowie's plot. The agency released a criminal complaint detailing her alleged radical posts online and her suspicious behavior. The Albany resident was arrested and charged with one count of attempting to provide material support to a foreign terrorist organization. She has not yet entered a plea. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock has the details.
These are the images of the woman federal prosecutors say planned to detonate a bomb at the New York State Capitol, wearing all black clothing covering her face. The government says 35-year-old Jessica Bowie was surveilling the building in July here and later seen at a Home Depot in early August, buying materials including a large bin of nails for an explosive device that undercover agents pretended to assemble for her before meeting with Bowie and arresting the suspect for supporting terrorism.
Make no mistake about it, Miss Bowie's alleged plot was serious.
According to a charging document, Bowie converted to Islam 5 years ago using the name Aisha Saif, but started making threatening anti-American posts on social media in recent months, including "Praise be to Allah" for September 11th.
Miss Bowie swore her allegiance to ISIS through multiple audio recordings.
That prompted undercover FBI agents to exchange messages with Bowie, who they say planned to use a delivery DoorDash bag to transport the explosive device, telling them in writing, "I want to destroy as much of the building as possible and kill the senators while they're meeting." Bowie has not yet entered a plea, but according to the document, told authorities she knew about the possible terrorism charges. "I already Googled it before. I know I'm going to jail." Sam Brock, NBC News, New York.
For more on this, let's bring in Darren Porcher. He is a retired New York police lieutenant. Darren, good to have you with us. A lot of details here, actually, in the charging document. So from a police perspective, what stood out to you most about how the FBI was able to track down and arrest Bowie?
What stood out to me was police departments throughout the country have officers that monitor social media. That monitoring of social media, which availed officers to the Mrs. Bowe in this particular case was very instrumental in not only bringing her in as a person that they can communicate with, but it ended with the apprehension. She was a person that didn't have the skill set to manufacture an explosive device. So what she did when she was contacted by the FBI was try to rein in a person that could assist her with that assembly. In addition to that, she actually didn't have the money to purchase the items. So they afforded her $200 to make the purchase, and this manifested in her apprehension.
When you talk about social media, the FBI says Bowe created multiple social media accounts and posted these anti-American messages, swearing allegiance to ISIS, praising the September 11th attacks. How difficult is it for authorities to distinguish between someone who's been radicalized online but doesn't act on their extreme views versus someone who actually does pose a credible threat?
In this particular case in question, this is someone we refer to as a lone wolf. Lone wolf assailants are the most difficult to monitor. And fortunately, based on her not having the skill set to produce the weapons of mass destruction that she desired, she had to reach out to others. And the FBI's team that monitors social media was highly instrumental in this. And it's something that we've done many times in the NYPD. And you oftentimes don't hear about these thwarted terrorist attacks. But this is one that came to fruition that they were subsequently able to put the kibosh on, and now we see it on television. This just happened, I say, over a 2-month time frame from July into August. The quick reaction of the FBI resulted in saving lives.
Things moved very quickly here. What are some of the signs authorities look for to determine when they should act?
Well, first off, as you mentioned, the numerous posts that were placed on social media actually closed down several of her accounts. That's why she had a variety of different accounts as it related to pledging her allegiance to ISIS. When you, as law enforcement, identify these potential threats, the first thing that you want to do is you want to engage the subject. You want to find out actually what are they looking to do, and how could you possibly be in concert or work in concert with this individual? By gaining that collaborative process of interacting with the individuals or rapport, that's when you're able to assess what their ideology is, to focus on how you can make the apprehension.
She allegedly mentioned 9/11. This year will mark 25 years since the 9/11 terror attacks. What are some of the extra precautions you think authorities have in place as we do prepare to mark the tragic milestone?
We oftentimes revolutionize our methods in how we can detect possible terrorist activity moving forward. What's fortunate is police, or I should say law enforcement, have married into technological innovations as to how they can possibly attract or contact with things that are happening with individuals at certain specific sites, such as, I'll give you an example. This lady visited the Capitol site in Albany on several occasions. We had camera visions that were able to capture those images that assisted us. Because you got to take in consideration, the average person is photographed or videotaped 100 to 200 times a day. This runs paramount with law enforcement as it relates to surveillance to detect if an individual is possibly looking to embark upon nefarious behavior, and it manifested in this particular case.
Darren Porcher, appreciate you sharing your expertise with us this morning. Thank you so much. Now to a major update in the Middle East. A U.S. official tells NBC News the USS Abraham Lincoln is heading home after spending 9 months in the region. The extended deployment for the roughly 5,000 sailors and Marines has been marred by reports of deteriorating conditions. Family members of those on board tell NBC News conditions have been grim. They point to a lack of food and supplies and concerns about the sailors and Marines' mental health. The Pentagon has pushed back on those reports. Now CENTCOM says the USS George Washington has arrived in the region, taking over the mission as tensions with Iran remain high. A split screen of heavy rain and crippling heat continues to take its toll on Americans this week. A new round of severe storms drenched the Northeast with torrential rain. Yesterday's deluge brought flash flooding, even tornadoes to parts of the East Coast. Earlier this week, that powerful storm system battered parts of the Midwest, leaving cars submerged and roads completely underwater. Well, down south, millions are still trying to keep cool. They're stuck in that scorching heat wave that has brought record temperatures from Oklahoma to Florida. NBC News correspondent Valerie Castro is on Long Island with the latest on all of this. Valerie, good morning. First, let's talk about that rain last night. It was heavy here in the city and all around the New York metro area. What are things looking like out there after the torrential rain in the Northeast?
Yeah, Joe, we're here in Nassau County where county officials actually declared a state of emergency after some water spouts were spotted just offshore here. And those storms really battered this beach club behind me. You can see some of the debris there behind me between those two buildings. The cleanup will begin today. There were reports that it was possibly a tornado that hit this area overnight. The National Weather Service will have teams here today to survey all of the damage to see if that is in fact the case. Of course, a tornado rare for this part of New York. County officials say no one was seriously injured or killed. But again, this beach club sustained quite a bit of damage. 30 of those cabanas in the back were destroyed. And at one point, emergency crews were actually searching all of those cabanas to see if anyone was trapped inside. You mentioned New York City and New Jersey. Those both sustained some flash flooding yesterday. And there was also a reported tornado in Dover, Delaware. Joe.
Of course, Valerie, the Midwest still picking up the pieces from the devastating floods earlier this week. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we've seen them get hammered with rain over the recent weeks, tornadoes as well. Central Ohio was drenched with quite a bit of rain. Several counties there getting several inches of rain, up to 4 inches in some areas. And again, Joe, they are still trying to recover from all of that flooding that we've seen there over the last several weeks.
And if
Joe?
It's not rain, it is heat. We see that heat wave still blanketing the South with those dangerous temperatures. How are people doing there? How are they staying cool and safe amid this streak of record highs?
Yeah, very oppressive heat. We know some high schools in Texas that have started football practice. They're actually doing those practices before the sun even comes up to try and get those practices in before the temperatures reach those extreme highs. Out west, some places seeing temperatures in the 90s. There's a school district in Colorado. They actually cut class early, dismissed students 2 hours early for classrooms that did not have air conditioning there. So all in efforts to keep students safe. Joe.
Right. Valerie Castro reporting from Long Island. Valerie, thank you so much. For more now on what to expect in your area this weekend, Angie Lassman joins us with your morning news now. Weather, Angie, I have to say, you warned me to bring my umbrella yesterday, and I did. And the umbrella kept about this much of me dry because the wind was blowing. I was drenched walking around last night.
Listen, A for effort anyway, Joe. I think I should have told you umbrella, maybe the rain jacket, the rain boots, maybe just stay inside. It was quite crazy out there yesterday. I mean, the rain was just downright torrential for some folks. I'm going to show you more about that severe weather here in a moment, but let's take a look really quick at the heat alerts. Not much has changed over really the past week with these alerts. A lot of locations are the same that they've been, and that means that it is still hot for so many, and we're still needing to take those necessary precautions that you just heard Valerie mentioning. High 90s in Wichita today, feeling like 109 in Dallas, 111 for the heat index in New Orleans later today. Even Atlanta, it'll feel like 99 at the warmest point of the day today. And we've got more where that came from as we look ahead to tomorrow. Triple digits for your actual temperatures in Oklahoma City, Baton Rouge, Odessa. And even if you're not into the triple digits for your actual temperatures, you sure are feeling quite toasty. 92 in Tallahassee, but feeling like 103. A lot of these locations are running well above normal. We do get a little bit of a break for some folks the farther north you go. Still going to be quite hot and kind of uncomfortable along the Gulf Coast, even as we get into early next week. But notice Asheville into the low 80s. Chicago, that's downright refreshing at this point. 77 on Sunday and Monday. Boston into the high 70s as we roll through the weekend and into early next week. Now, the rain that I mentioned, it's mostly offshore now, but we do have a couple of these kind of showers lingering across parts of New England. Farther south, Knoxville in points east, that's where we're going to see the kind of thunderstorm activity through the day today. It's the southeast that starts to kind of see some of those thunderstorms popping up, along with parts of the Great Lakes as we track this next system. We're going to likely see some flooding concerns across the Carolinas, so we'll watch for that later today. And then really kind of an unsettled weekend across the east for parts of the Great Lakes, the Northeast. Showers and thunderstorms will be around. This is going to impact your beach plans up and down the East Coast from the Mid-Atlantic to the Northeast. And unfortunately, even as we look into Sunday, we'll see a little more sunshine for places like Washington, D.C. But the farther north you go up into New England, we'll still be looking at that wet weather. One note, we do have another chance to see some stronger storms as we get through the day today. Parts of the Midwest, hail and wind gusts. Chicago's included in that. And then the Southeast, Columbia, you're included in the potential for some of those stronger storms as well. Hail, wind gusts are going to be the main threat, Joe.
I didn't recognize your map without triple-digit temperatures on it. It was startling.
Day after day after day. Yeah, we will actually shockingly get a bit of a break. You just got to look way ahead.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.